Chapter 3 of Counsels and Maxims is titled Our Relation to Others. It is a little bit shorter than the previous section on our relation to ourselves, and Schopenhauer begins it in section 21 with a discussion of toleration, of how to put up with people who annoy us, how we should conduct ourselves, conduct our minds, in order not to lose our equanimity. A good deal of Schopenhauer's thought in this section, I think, flows from his determinism, as we'll see. Here's the text. In making his way through life, a man will find it useful to be ready and able to do two things: to look ahead and to overlook. The one will protect him from loss and injury, the other from disputes and squabbles. No one who has to live amongst men should absolutely discard any person who has his due place in the order of nature, even though he is very wicked or contemptible or ridiculous. He must accept him as an unalterable fact, unalterable because the necessary outcome of an eternal fundamental principle. And in bad cases, he should remember the words of Mephistopheles, Es muss auch solche Käuze geben. There must be fools and rogues in the world. That's a quote from Goethe's Faust. If he acts otherwise, he will be committing an injustice and giving a challenge of life and death to the man he discards. No one can alter his own peculiar individuality, his moral character, his intellectual capacity, his temperament or physique. And if we go so far as to condemn a man from every point of view, there will be nothing left him but to engage us in deadly conflict, for we are practically allowing him the right to exist only on condition that he becomes another man, which is impossible. His nature forbids it. I think Schopenhauer is giving us here some good advice about toleration, and is summed up in something somebody said to me once, that we ought to remember for any person who bothers us that given the kind of person he is, the kind of character he has, his own behavior follows from that. Right? If he is a coward, he will behave as a coward behaves. To expect a coward to behave courageously is simply a fundamental mistake. So the error here is in your expectations. I think that Schopenhauer is saying something similar here. One with the regard to no one should discard. By here, I mean he thinks reject utterly any human being. Why? Because if you declare yourself against him in every respect, you can expect nothing but hostility in return to him. You are telling him that he may exist or be part of your life only if he becomes a totally different man. This no one can do. As I said, I think this follows from Schopenhauer's determinism. Since no one can change his character, his intellectual capacity, etc., to relate to people only on condition that they do change those things is to make enemies, more enemies than you need. How should we deal with people then? How should we behave? Schopenhauer speaks to that next. Here's what he says. So if you have to live amongst men, you must allow everyone the right to exist in accordance with the character he has, whatever it turns out to be. And all you should strive to do is to make use of this character in such a way as its kind of nature permits, rather than to hope for any alteration in it, or to condemn it offhand for what it is. It's valuable advice, I think, that how should you relate to people? Well, let them be what they are, make use of their character, rather than trying to change it or condemn it. Okay? Don't try to change them because you can't change them. Don't condemn them because they can't change themselves. Rather, try to find a place for them in your life, in your happiness. Try to make use of their character in the overall scheme of things in your life. That's the intelligent way to react to other people, especially people of a difficult character. Schopenhauer continues, this is the true sense of the maxim, live and let live. That, however, is a task which is difficult in proportion as it is right. And he is a happy man who can, once and for all, avoid having to do with a great many of his fellow creatures. Okay. as we'd expect from Schopenhauer, solitude should be the rule, engagement with as few people as possible, so we have to put up with as few people as possible. We have to find a use for the characters, the unpleasant characters of as few people as possible. How do we deal with people? Schopenhauer speaks to that next. Here's what he says. The art of putting up with people may be learned by practicing patience on inanimate objects, which, in virtue of some mechanical or general physical necessity, oppose a stubborn resistance to our freedom of action, a form of patience which is required every day. The patience thus gained may be applied to our dealings with men, by accustoming ourselves to regard their opposition, wherever we encounter it, as the inevitable outcome of their nature, which sets itself up against us in virtue of the same rigid law of necessity as governs the resistance of inanimate objects. To become indignant at their conduct is as foolish as to be angry with a stone because it rolls into your path. And with many people, the wisest thing you can do is to resolve to make use of those whom you cannot alter. And that's the end of the section. And I think an interesting suggestion here, practically, that we can learn patience by practicing on inanimate objects. I treat the bolt that I can't turn in my workshop or the lawnmower that I can't start as an important training for me in learning to deal with material objects, physical objects, which, not willfully or maliciously, resist my will. I want them to do something, they won't do it. So I have to figure out how to make use of them. I have to figure out a way around them. This prepares me for when I confront, a coworker who's incompetent or a cop who's aggressive towards me. I can't change these people. The best I can do is make use of them and find a place for them in my overall scheme of things. If I get angry at them for being the way they are, I'm not able to live happily. That's just the wrong way to approach it. I should treat them like the rusted bolt in my workshop, a thing that I can deal with. When I can't change it, I should make use of it as it is, rather than raging against it internally and losing my peace of mind. So that's section 21 of Schopenhauer's Counsels and Maxims. We'll look at section 22 in the next video. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.